Ontario Mbo matenangora Mantua ishiru Pamapuangora Rembo apongune Mvapiro munkutma Untua fan kenema Jean kwat mbonu Toi ishiro Toi numbo mae Toi numbo ma manger m'di pois.
Hallo, ich spreche heute im Namen der Sonnenblumen Community Development Group Köln und heiße Sie herzlich willkommen zu unserer heutigen Abendveranstaltung Länderfokus Kamerun. In der Themenreihe des Kölner Literatur- und Bildungsprojektes Stimmen Afrikas. Wir haben heute Dr. Priscilla Manjo zu Gast mit ihrem Buch Snare. Ursprünglich sollte das Event ja in der alten Feuerwehr im großen Forum stattfinden, aber Corona-bedingt treffen wir uns heute Abend hier über unseren virtuellen Kanal der Sonnenblumen-Community und sind gerade auch live hier vor Ort in den Räumlichkeiten der Sonnenblumen-Community und freuen uns, dass Sie zusehen. Als Kooperationspartnerinnen von Stimmen Afrikas freuen wir uns sehr über diesen Abend, da uns das Sichtbarmachen von schwarzer und afrodiasporischer Literatur sehr am Herzen liegt. Deshalb hat der Verein im September 2020 auch mit der Gründung der Theodor Wonja Bibliothek in Köln begonnen. Daneben engagiert sich die Sonnenblumen-Community für Bildung, politische Arbeit und Empowerment für Kinder, Jugendliche, Frauen und Menschen mit Behinderungen. Und darunter fällt natürlich auch der wirtschaftliche und soziale Empowerment-Fokus für schwarze Menschen. Als Gast haben wir, wie erwähnt, schon Dr. Priscilla Manjo heute bei uns mit ihrem Buch Snare und als Moderator darf ich Césaire Beyel vorstellen und wünsche Ihnen viel Vergnügen beim Zusehen. Dankeschön.
On behalf of Sonnenblumen Community Development Group, I would like to welcome you to this event. The event is entitled An African Came to Germany for Colonial Debts, and it's going to be the reading of the book Snare by the author Dr. Priscilla Manjo. So what we're going to be talking about is the book. Thank you very much. The book Snare is a book about young Cameroonian people who came to Germany in order to seek a better life for themselves and their beloved ones and families. And the book is a lot about love and struggle for life. And when you talk about love, you talk about disappointment or happiness, which sometimes go side by side. But the book is also about a common history, the history of Africans and Germans, and in particular the history of Cameroonians and Germans. I'm talking about colonial history of German in Cameroon. So what we're going to do is I will tell you the whole history from beginning to end with all details, and then you know it, the history. No, I don't think so. That's not what we are going to do. Instead, we are going to do something much better. We have the author with us. We have Dr. Priscilla Manjo, and she is going to tell us from her own perspective what the book is about and what knowledge we should take out of it. So let me just present you Dr. Priscilla Manjo, and I have to read from the notes that I took in order not to leave out a detail. Dr. Priscilla Manjo is a Cameroonian author and initiator residing in Berlin, Germany. She obtained her BA degree in English Modern Letters from the bilingual University of Yaoundé 1. During her 3 years at this university, she was a member of and an actress with the Master Key Theatre Club, a university drama group. She was also a member of the UPOC, Yaoundé University Poetry Club, and starred in short satiric dramas for the national television CRTV. During her master degree studies in Anglophone literatures and culture at the University of Potsdam, Germany, she wrote a film script which she later produced as a movie, Suki, in 2017. Alongside her research for a PhD in the field of post-colonialism, African literatures and culture at the University of Berlin, she published her first novel titled Snare. Published in 2013, Snare won the 2015 Echo Award Prize. Her most recent publication, which is partly based on her PhD research, is titled Representations and Renegotiations of the Nation in Anglophone Cameroon Literature. She is also a part-time lecturer, a speaker, a project coordinator, and a president of HCCA, which is High Council of Cameroonians Abroad in Germany. She has hosted many conferences and workshops. So this is a very short bio of Priscilla, which I will now start by asking you, dear Priscilla, first, welcome to the show, and thank you for having accepted the invitation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Mr. Cesar. I'm very impressed by the biography you read out. And I also want to extend my thanks to you, to this organization, this community organizations, to Glenda, to Laila, to Bianca, and I mean all of you, to Laura, who have invited me to be a part of this event.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you, and I hope we're going to have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Fruitful time. Yeah.
Okay, maybe just a short word again concerning the organization. Sonnenblumen Community, which has been introduced by Lila, is an African diaspora, is a diaspora organization here in the Colonial region, which is really very active. They've been doing a lot of works. One example is the library in this room that we have on the side. And another example is that they've been working a lot as the Colonial chapter of Black Lives Matter, just to name two of the things that they are doing. So it's worth supporting this organization. Now, Priscilla, just to come back to the book, it was written 2013, right?
Yes, actually, I started writing the book before 2013 and finally succeeded to publish it in 2013.
Okay, can you say when exactly you started writing?
I started writing, let's say, like 2004, as early 2004, 2006. I was just writing, I mean, just working on it since I was a student. So, yeah. I mean, in my spare time, I revisited it and, I mean, just improved on it and just writing. And then I just decided around 2012, 2013 that I should publish it. And after having given it to maybe a few friends, my teachers, they read it and then they said, okay, maybe you could publish it in 2013. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what was the reason? Because reading the book, I feel like I've been myself in the situation. I came to Germany as a student and I've lived quite a bit here. So reading the book, I was feeling like the book is talking a bit about me. So what was your inspiration? What made you write the book about that subject?
Okay, yeah, the book, as you rightly say, is a book of migration, which examines the lives of Africans abroad, say specifically from Cameroon. Mm-hmm. But I mean, when you look at the work closely, you realize that it also, I mean, applies to several other countries from sub-Saharan Africa. So it's a work of migration, and as you rightly say, it's a work of kind of representation where all of us as Africans could identify with in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I would say I was really influenced by, my experiences abroad as well.
Okay.
Yeah, just like you say, you could identify with something. I was also influenced by what I observed, what I listened to, what the way I saw the society, the things I experienced, some of which I didn't experience, some of which were experienced by my fellow Africans.
Yeah.
Those were the sources of my influence.
Yeah. So, like reading the book, like I said, many things I see are in common for many Africans, but I was very impressed and also intrigued by the motivation that pushes people to leave the country and come abroad. Yeah. So I would like to give the reader, the listeners, an impression of that by us starting the first part, the first excerpt that we selected. So this is, we are going to call Laura for her to read the first part. Maybe I can introduce Laura. Laura is also very active here in the Colonial community, and she's also an author. She reads and she writes also a lot of things. So we'll just leave the stage for her to read the first part for us. Yeah?
Okay.
It was now 1 week after the party. Jerry was at an Intercity Express bus station in Commercial Avenue, trying to board a bus to the Southwest Province. This town was the commercial capital of Pays, and so it was named after this fact. Jerry planned to board a bus to Tengan and then another one to Bat. Amidst the busy atmosphere, Jerry figured out Pamela at the canteen, sipping a drink. He walked up and took a seat next to her. "Hello, Pam. How is it?" he asked. "Oh, fine," said Pamela. She continued to sip her drink and looked at Jerry with a sneer. "Are you traveling or something?" Jerry asked. "Oh, yes, I'm traveling, as you can see, to Samedi," Pamela retorted. "I see, Pam. I don't know when next I can see you. The other day you kept me waiting, and when we met at the party, you even refused to dance with me." Pamela was very bitter. "So, what about that? Was I obliged to dance with you? Did I invite you to the party?" Jerry tried to calm Pamela down. "Not like that, Pam. Not like that. Do not take it too hard. I love and care about you very much. So I do not feel very happy when you treat me like this, you know. Moreover, now that I am about to travel, I would really like us to know each other very well. So in the future, we can even spend our lives together." Pamela burst out laughing. "What has your traveling to Samedi got to do with me? See, I will strongly advise you to go elsewhere and look for your class of..." Jerry also cut in laughing as he took out his passport from the pocket of his jacket. "Who is talking about Samedi here? See, I'm traveling to Germany. See, Pam, I have gotten a visa, a German visa." Jerry opened his passport and showed Pamela the page carrying the visa. Pamela was speechless, and without thinking twice, she jumped up and embraced Jerry. "Ah, German visa! Let me see! Wow!" She took the passport from Jerry and opened it to the first page, carrying the picture. "Oh, how great! Fine boy! Just have a look at this photograph on your passport. It's so cute. Ah, a German visa. How wonderful. Have a sip." Pamela offered Jerry her drink and stared at him with love and respect. Then Jerry ordered for some more drinks. "Look at me, oh. I was running my mouth, talking about you traveling to Samedi." Then Pamela thought hard, and pretending to be angry, she said, "Why didn't you tell me you were making arrangements to travel abroad? To travel to Germany, you know. I feel you don't love me. You don't care about me. No, Pam. Don't be annoyed. Jerry pleaded. I wanted to be very sure before letting the cat out of the bag. I didn't want to count my chickens before they are hatched. Just then, a classmate of Pamela, Patty, walked up to them to greet Pamela. Patty had come to the bus station to see off her aunt who was traveling to Samedi and to board a bus to Victown herself. She had spent the weekend at her aunt's place and it was already Monday. After explaining all this to Pamela, she added that her aunt traveled with the bus that had just left and she had to reach Victown before 5 p.m. Now it's already getting to 4 p.m. Okay, goodbye. See you later in bed, Pam, Patty said. Hey, you've not greeted my fiancé, Pamela said and hugged Jerry. And do you know what? He just got a visa to go to Bundes. His name is Jerry Asongba.
Thank you very much, Laura, for this reading. So let me come to Priscilla with the question. When I see this, I'm a bit intrigued. You see, from going to, as my francophone sisters would say, il ne va même pas voir la couleur du, let me not continue, to flipping into completely the other side of, can have it all, it's all yours. Just because of showing up passport with a visa. That makes me think that there is such a big motivation for people to move out of the country. Can you explain me what this is due to? What makes this situation be like that?
Actually, yeah. What you said is correct. Most youths are really very eager to leave the country, to migrate to the West.
Yeah.
So to say, I mean, you can read this, you can look at this from several perspectives. You can, first of all, to begin with, what we Africans, we are going through today, what we live, I mean, the mentality that we have, the mindset that an average African has today is the fact that the West is like superior to the, I mean, to the South, to the African countries. And this ideology, this ideal came about through colonialism. As we all know, we have this whole notion of Eurocentrism, where everything white was the best, yeah, and then everything that has to do with Africa or everything that is black is negative, is not good. So just from that, I mean, many people think that living in the West and everything that has to do with Europe and America is the best, apart from the fact that the situation also back home doesn't really favor most people in terms of getting a good job after you graduate from the university. So we can say there are many factors. I mean, the mindset of the people, Eurocentrism, the whole idea of poverty and misery and things like that. So this whole idea of Eurocentrism is one that has brainwashed the Africans so much so that they don't even see maybe the opportunities which they have around them, which they can even use, because they believe that everything that is better, I mean, you know, as it's always often said, the grass is greener on the other side. So they always think that if they come to Europe, it's going to be a bed of roses, it's going to be all wonderful. I mean, due to the fact that the people also who have traveled abroad and have gone back to Cameroon, so to say, they don't say the truth about what they really experience here in Europe. So all those things make the youths very, very eager to leave the country.
Okay, you said that the book was written in the time 2013.
No, before 2013.
2004 to 2013.
Yes.
Do you think now we are 2021? Have you been able to observe a sort of shifting in this mindset? Do you think the things have moved in another way? Because from my perspective, I don't really know. Is it possible things have moved from this mindset to another one, that things have gotten different in 2021?
Yeah, I would say the whole idea of decolonizing the mind, in my opinion, hasn't really achieved much. because
Okay.
when people still go back home, and the people back home, the way they still embrace the people who come from Europe and America, their mindset seems not to be changing.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm optimistic that, I mean, change will come, and the people will come to understand, especially the young people will come to understand that they must not necessarily travel abroad to make a good living.
Yeah.
They could also make use of the resources that they have back home.
Okay, let me pick on this, your optimism, to see what should be done. What can the people back home do in order not to remain in this mindset, in order to come forward?
In order to
What, yeah, what should be done for the people not to see the Europe or the West just as paradise?
Actually, I mean, there should be a lot of I mean, indoctrination. I mean, like educating the youth, making them to see the,
Yeah.
let's say during the colonial period, there was nothing good about Africa apart from the fact that it was a dark continent. If you look at Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, what he writes and things like that. But as the years go by, and especially within the past, say 5, 6 years, or even 7 to 10 years, the focus has actually been on Africa when we started talking about the whole idea of globalization and things like that. So I would actually strongly, personally advise the young people or us Africans to actually take advantage of this focus that is being, I mean, this interest that is being shown on the continent of Africa, and make the best use of it. I will start by saying they should start to think about what they can do for their various countries, what they can do for their continent. They should put away every inclinations of ethnicity, corruption, and I mean things like marginalization, discrimination, and really focus on working for the good of their various countries and for the good of the continent, without which they will not have a place in the global world, and they will not benefit from this attention that is being paid to Africa at the moment.
Okay. Do you think your book, Snare, read by young African people, young Cameroonians, do you think that could contribute for them to get another awareness, for them to maybe come down from this mindset?
Yeah, I think Snare is an eye-opener to the African, to the young African who is still nursing the ambition of traveling abroad under the pretext that, I mean, life abroad is like a bed of roses. Because if you see the disillusionment which the characters encounter in Snare, you realize that they had a lot of hopes, and by the time they got to Germany, their hopes were like shattered, and they saw something different. So I think this is a great teaching to the young people. That notwithstanding, there is one question they always ask. Like when I gave an interview in Cameroon some years back, and I was asked, Dr. Manjo, if you think it's that bad the way you paint it in Snare, why are you still there?
Yeah,
that's always the question. What are you still doing there? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that.
So I mean, so it's not like I'm restricting people not to travel abroad.
Yeah,
but you should have a good reason, a good purpose of traveling. I know many of us, many Africans travel with the intention of going back to go and build or rebuild or I mean, bring up their own societies, which they hardly fulfill this dream. They hardly do that. They stay longer than they always plan to.
Yeah.
So
then let me just pick on that disillusionment to call Laura to read us the next part of the book.
The taxi finally stopped at the last traffic light, turned left, and then turned right in front of the student hostel, Ferdinand Thomas, in Stockoverstrasse. Welche Hausnummer nochmal? The driver asked. Hier ist richtig, Jerry said. The taxi came slowly to a halt. Jerry and Pamela alighted from the taxi. Jerry paid the driver, and they moved into the student hostel building, took the elevator onto the 4th floor, and then moved down to the 3rd floor, where Jerry's apartment was. The elevator stopped only at the 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th, and 10th floor, a kind of 2 times table. Before leaving for Peyi, Jerry had found himself a room in the same hostel Wenji and his other friends lived. A room became available when a friend decided to save money by moving in with another friend, and Jerry took the opportunity to have his room for himself. Jerry opened the door, and Pamela immediately found herself standing in the middle of a brief corridor, which led briefly on both sides to 2 brief rooms facing each other. On the corridor, there was also a mini kitchen facing the door to the toilet and bathroom. Jerry's was a 1-room apartment in a 2-room Wohngemeinschaft. At one end of the corridor was a sofa with a small table in front of it. Jerry put their luggage near the small table, opened the door to his room, and then took the luggage inside. He also helped Pamela inside with the box she was pulling. In Jerry's room was a bed, a wardrobe, a sofa, and a table, a mirror dressing cupboard, a TV, and a musical set in their appropriate places. The place looked well arranged and clean. So, at last, here we are. You're heartily welcome to Germany. Feel free here. Here is your home, Jerry said to Pamela. Pamela looked around the tiny room critically and sneeringly. She sat down on the sofa, and a feeling of disappointment swept over her, which later on turned to annoyance and finally to anger against Jerry. She stared outside through the window for a while, and then, after it seemed she had made up her mind over something, she screamed rudely at Jerry, "Please, can I have my bath?" Jerry, who did not notice her all this while because he was busy unpacking their luggage, lifted up his head with a start. "Of course, dear, you can. But come, let me show you around first, although there is not much to be seen." "Hey, I don't have time for that. I'm terribly tired. Please, just show me the bathroom," she retorted. "Okay, dear Pam." "Pam," Jerry tried to smile. Pamela frowned, opened her box, picked up a few things, and Jerry led her to the bathroom door and started to move away. Pamela tried to open the door, but the door would not open. She became restless as she went back into the room. "Where is the key?" "I mean, the bathroom door. It's locked." "Oh, sorry. Just hold on for a while. My flatmate is using it," Jerry said as he tried to point at the neighbor's door sheepishly. Pamela sighed long and took in a deep breath. "You see, never mind. We will move out of this place to where we will not have to share the bathroom with other people. In fact, I hope to make some money as soon as possible." Pamela did not react nor say anything. She looked at Jerry indifferently. Jerry stopped and thought hard, and then walked into the room to continue unpacking their luggage. Jerry hated the feeling of inadequacy. It reminded him of how he and his family used to struggle to live comfortably with the coming of economic crisis in Peyi when a new president took over power. Economic crisis, or crise économique, started like a joke in Peyi. But before the people knew it, it became fashionable and embedded in their spirits. This was especially the case when the president confirmed in an official speech that there was an economic crisis. This provided husbands who did not want to provide for their families with a way out. It gave youths who did not want to work hard a way out. It also gave young girls who wanted to go after more than one man, both young and old, a way out. This was a kind of motive for everyone. This was a kind of motive everyone took to escape being responsible.
Thank you again, Laura, for the nice reading, which is really, it's a live reading and it feels very good. Thank you for that. Priscilla, can I ask you, this is now, we have seen the disillusionment of a young girl. We have gone through both phases. the phase when she saw the visa and the phase when she see the reality. What I want to ask you is, on your own experience, before you came to Germany, you had an idea of how things are. So what was the contrast to you? Were the things the way you imagined they were, or was there also such a big difference as now seen by Pamela?
Actually, personally, I came to Germany to study. That doesn't mean that I didn't have an idea or an opinion of what I expected maybe to also see, like you say.
Yeah.
And I would say from, I was really very, very also a little bit taken aback right from the airport where my aunt came to pick me up. So I expected her to come in maybe in a very wonderful car. And the first thing I was surprised about is that she didn't come with a car. And she told me, I mean, Berlin has a very good structure. She doesn't need a car. What would one be needing a car in this city for? You know, when she used to come to Cameroon, I mean, in Cameroon, it's obvious she's always with a car. We're always with cars and things like that. So I was really taken aback. And then we had to go into the underground station to board the train. And it was kind of really tedious. I mean, I traveled the whole night. And then I arrived on Berlin in the morning. I expected to be sitting maybe at least in a taxi, even if she doesn't have a car. But she said we should take the underground train, and I had to carry my baggage, and we had to go on. I mean, I looked at the underground. The whole atmosphere of the underground train wasn't really very impressive to me. It was something that was new, no doubt, but it wasn't really. The view wasn't what I mean. It wasn't impressive, and then I had to struggle. I mean, if you are used to Berlin, you know what I'm saying. You have to struggle up the stairs and down. I mean, when we are alighting and boarding, and then when we got to her apartment, she's living in a 2-bedroom house. You know, these movies we used to watch about this Santa Barbara, all these series. I was expecting a big house with a nice garden and things like that. So I was wondering, why should my aunt be living here? I mean, when she comes to Cameroon, I don't see her like that. It doesn't mean that there were not big houses in Berlin or nice houses when we went out to stroll. And when I made mention to her that, oh, this house is nice, and why is it that we are not living there? Why are you not living in that house? She said, oh, you want to live there? Okay. You need to work hard. Don't think it's easy. You can just come, and don't think we are here in Cameroon, you know? So I had my own moments. I mean, I went to one student hostel. It was a very interesting experience because the rooms were really, really very tiny. And then there was this guy, he invited me out and he took me out to show me Berlin. And then in the end, he wanted to show me his place, you know, the Cameroon guys, they do it. I mean, he's a big guy. He's hoping that this girl is going to, I mean, fall for him. And immediately I got into his room, it's like the bed was so narrow and he had to pull a drawer from underneath and took his neatly arranged things. And I mean, this guy is, I mean, tall, dark, handsome, like most of the Cameroonian guys, you know, they're always handsome. So I was just thinking, I mean, everything just fell flat. He's all that just fell, Well, I'm not somebody who is very materialistic, but I was like, and then he didn't find anything wrong in that. I discovered that the people saw it that was normal. So okay, I started to learn that. Wow, so things are really different over here. So
so after a while, you also realize that this is the reality which people have to cope with.
Yeah.
Okay, but one thing I've read in the book is that, at least which is not part of this, is the Cameroonians living in Germany, they work hard. They work hard to make a living, and also caring about the families back home. So from this perspective, do you think it may be something was coming in Germany and staying?
I think that
I mean, at least, or maybe I should start by asking the way you describe the people, this community of young Cameroonians, is like, just with some small exceptions, all of them are trying to work hard to earn some money. And what they do is try to get a living for themselves and also send some money back home.
Okay.
And as we've seen in the recent past, these remittances have been a big issue in Germany as well as United Nations, so far. So from that point of view, do you think there's a sort of contribution, sort of positive contribution for the people who came to Germany?
Yeah, the people, I mean, when people immigrate, I mean, young people, when they migrate to the West, to Germany, so to say, like you say, I mean, the positive part, yeah, you can look at the whole issue of them sending money back home, these remittances. Yeah, it helps their families, no doubt. It helps to build their families, to improve on the living conditions of their families and things like that. But I still think there is also a lot that the country loses when the young people, I mean, there's brain drain, and there is, I mean, back home, if these people could invest what they are investing in this society in their various countries, I think it will be more beneficial, not only to their immediate families, which they tend to care about. It will be more beneficial to a whole community, to the whole society, and to the whole nation.
Okay.
If you look at the bigger picture.
So I mean, it would be far better for most of them to stay home and try to get a better living there.
Exactly, because they actually, I mean, when young people come here, they are very industrious. They are really hardworking. Sometimes when I observe and I imagine this same ability, this same spirit, the same punctuality, the same hard work, the same integrity that they invest in this society, if they could be that conscious to invest this same attitude in their own countries, I mean, I imagine there's going to be some blossoming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, reading the book, I came across a question which I'm going to read to the audience. Maybe some people know, I suppose many certainly will know the answer, but for those who don't know the answer, I would like to ask the question because it's not answered in the book. It was a matter of some African experts talking, and then came the question. Let me just read it quite quickly. What is the name of the city where a most remarkable conference was held in 1884 to decide the fate of a most remarkable race? And it says in the book, but no one seemed to know the answer to the question. Can you answer this question for us? I mean, for the people who do not know the answer to this, and give us a bit of background.
Okay. The name of the city where the most remarkable conference was held in 1884 to decide the fate of a most remarkable race. Actually, okay, placing it in the book and creating characters who do not seem to give an answer to this question is, I mean, it's also strategically placed in that book. It's for a purpose.
Yeah.
So actually, I wouldn't go into all that. So I will just go straight to what this 1884 conference, which I mean most people already know about, the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where the fate of Africa was being decided. So this conference was hosted by Otto von Bismarck, who initially did not deem it, I mean, he wasn't interested in colonialism, as history tells us, due to the fact that, I mean, he said he doesn't want to take part. All along, Otto von Bismarck had been saying that he doesn't want to take part in colonialism. And the nation building process was also going on in Germany, which did not come to fruition until, I think, around 1871. So all these factors made Germans to participate very late in the whole exploit of colonialism. I mean, that notwithstanding, it doesn't mean that they never really took part in it, because in 1884, there were some problems that were going on among some great nations, colonial powers to say, like Britain and France. And Otto von Bismarck stepped in to try to solve this problem and came up with this whole concept, this idea of the Berlin Conference that was held. And then this conference, actually, it doesn't mean this conference initiated colonialism, but it formalized it. It actually increased the interest of the colonizers to want to take part in this mission of invasion of colonialism. So this, I mean, it's the 1884 conference that was held for the fate of Africans to be decided just like that, how to divide Africans without even asking the opinion of the people. And what I analyzed in my later work, which you talked about in when you introduced me, representations and renegotiations of the nation, I actually ask a question in this book as well, that I don't know what the colonial masters had behind their minds when they took people of different cultures, different languages, different backgrounds, and put them together to be one nation. First and foremost, in Cameroon, there are over 250 languages. These are not dialects. These are full-fledged languages, even though they have not been written. Under these languages, you have dialects. And then, as if enough were not enough, this country became divided after the First World War, creating another language issue. So, I mean, it's just like putting Britain, France, Switzerland, and maybe Poland to live in as one nation. Yeah. Is that going to work? It's like just putting many European nations, nations of the West, to coexist as one. So it's like a tower of Babel. Yeah. Cameroon already has so many languages, and then comes this language problem that came as a result of colonialism. Yeah, exactly. I hope I'm not talking too much.
No, that's okay. But we also give one of the protagonists the opportunity to give his view on colonialism. So this would be the third part of our reading. And what I would like to say is we read this third part first, and then directly continue on to reading the poem which comes to the end. So just so Laura knows, and then when she finished the first part, then she can go on to the next.
A police officer came to Jerry and said, "Ausweis bitte." Jerry laughed. "Passport, please," the police officer repeated, indicating with a square sign. The ambulance stopped. The rescue team came out and tried to take Jerry away, but the police officers insisted that Jerry must present his identification papers before getting on the ambulance. An argument ensued between the law officers and the medical team. The doctor tried to explain to the adamant police officer that Jerry was ill and needed medical attention first and not identification. At least his identification as a human being was enough to get him treated. So what other identification could be more important than a man's life? In a quarrel that ensued, the police argued strongly that Jerry was not sick. He asserted that Jerry was an illegal immigrant trying to cover up, and the doctor would be depriving them from doing their job if he didn't allow them to prepare Jerry for repatriation. Jerry, who did not seem to understand what was going on and why he was surrounded by policemen, overheard the word repatriation. He laughed and muttered, "No condition is permanent in this world. Repatriation or no repatriation," he said. He looked at a particular police officer with a hard-set face and said, "You, for instance, when around the year 1919, you left Motobolombo, you said you were coming back. Where are you today? Since then, have you come back?" The officer looked at him and asked, "Was ist Motobloblo?" Jerry laughed at the man's ignorance. "See this Oibo? You know no common Motobolombo? Pays Oboso. When Englishmen and Frenchmen drove you out, first they beat you and then drove you out. We were not the first. We were not the ones who drove you out. Instead, we were very fond of you. We wept as you left. While you, having compassion on us and for the rubber and banana plantations, said, 'Don't worry, we will come back. We must find a way to come back. We must look for another Sarajevo.' You went to Poland and went round and round. You ended somewhere around Pearl Harbor, but you never came back. You see, that's why I said no condition is permanent in this world." He laughed again and then started taking off his trousers. "Oh, but if only you had come back or even stayed longer, maybe things might have been a bit better. A bit, just a bit. Bitte ein bit. Why did you leave us before time? And so we were broken, divided, inflicted. At this point, the police officers were convinced that Jerry was a psychiatric case. Okay. He did cry. I don't die, you. Die for waiting. What you did cry? Shh, no cry. Why I no go cry? Leave me make I cry. My heart dey vex me. I get to cry. Vex? Which kind vex? Where you go make and you cry so? What you dey make like say you no know? Why I get for talk am again and again? Okay, I see. I understand now what you mean. But I don't know say no be my fault. That people them don't equally make me a vex, eh? I no fit help you. I no fit do anything. Now lie, you fit do something. Then knock me, beat me, and just disgrace me like say, then just curse my papa. When I even their papa too safe. That way I leave my man because of over suffer. I think say I could be happy. Now here I come for them. When I'm a real brother them. And then they not only curse me, they even curse my mommy self. When I their mommy too. Wasteland. He picking them now hollow men, stuffed men. You when are you for even help me self? You instead run. You leave me. My suffer, die. Not be so. Now, you know it vex me. Although I look like say I small for outside, but I big for inside, I no go die. I go only wait, may you come back for me. I dey cry because my neck become broke. No man to see am. No man to hear me. Even for that place where you dey. Go back. She's crying. I am dead. Why should you die? Why are you crying? Shh, don't cry. Why shouldn't I cry? Let me cry. Allow me to cry. I'm very angry. I will cry. What sort of anger will make you cry like that? Why do you behave as if you don't understand? Why should I say it again and again? Okay, I see. I now understand what you mean. But I know I'm not to be blamed. Those perpetrators have equally caused me pain. You see, can't help your pain. Oh yes, you can. You have, you are, you should. They battered me, beat me up and humiliated me. Insulted my father, who is also their father. When I left my husband due to torments, I thought I would be happy. That's why I came to them, who are my real brothers. But they did not only insult me, but insulted my mother, who is also their mother. Wasteland. Your children are hollow men, stuffed men. And you, my only source of solace, you fled, leaving me behind to suffer and die. Now you know my pain. Though small outside, I am big inside. I shall not die. And I shall not die. But I will wait and see you come back to me. I cry because my neck is almost broken. Can someone see? Can someone hear me? Not even from there?
Yeah, it's a very impressive poem that we just heard. And it's still going through my mind. But I have a question first, coming back to colonialism, to this reference of Jerry, which is sort of having a nostalgic view of things, who is crying why German did not come back, if I understand well. From the very recent past, we still see some influences of what we call neocolonialism. As recently as the last African Union meeting, there were who was that? The South African politician, Julius Malema, who was criticizing France for having that much of influence on its former colonies. So taking that, I would like to ask you, do you think, it's just an hypothetical question, do you think had the German come back or had they not been thrown out, as Jerry puts it, do you think things would be better today, or things would be somehow different?
Yeah. Like I stated in the book, yeah, had it been that comeback, why did they leave early? Why didn't they come back? They said they were coming back. You know, there's this adage in Cameroon where, I mean, most especially amongst the English-speaking citizens of Cameroon, when you just tell somebody that I'm coming, so are you sure you'll come back? Make sure you are not a German, or you don't behave like the Germans. After the Germans said they'll come back, did they ever come back? You know, when the Germans were leaving, you know, this is something I learned from my grandfather. When they were leaving after they had been defeated during the First World War, and they had to give up all their colonies. So they had become fond of the Cameroonians, who were like house boys to them, who were working for them. And they were actually crying that the Germans were leaving. And
Okay.
they were like, say, oh, don't worry, we're going to come back. We're going to come back, don't cry. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I see.
So that's the story that I got. And I mean, but they never came back. You know, it's the First World War that took them out. And so those places I mentioned in the novel, that you went to Pearl Harbor, you went to Sarajevo, those are just scenes of the Second World War,
yeah.
which could have brought them back, kind of.
Yeah,
But
I
then
see.
it's still, you know what happened in the Second World War, still,
true.
it didn't bring them back. So coming to your question, do I think it would have been, better? Number one, it would have been different, because the problem that is going on in Cameroon, presently, the whole idea of the Anglophone problem, there wouldn't have been any Anglophone problem. The Anglophone problem came about as a result of the fact that the Germans were thrown out of their colonies, including Cameroon, and Cameroon had to be unequally divided between Britain and France. This unequal division is what has brought about the issue of marginalization, which we are facing now in Cameroon. Because out of 10 regions, 8 of these regions are French-speaking, while just 2 of these regions are English-speaking. So since independence, this English-speaking region, they have been complaining of being marginalized by their French-speaking counterparts. So it's only under the German colonization that Cameroon had enjoyed unity. They were one as one. So that's a very marked difference, which shows that Cameroon would have been a German-speaking nation and would have been one. There wouldn't have been this problem of division, although we have other ethnic groups and things like that, but this major issue of language wouldn't have come up. And then secondly, in Cameroon, most Cameroonians believe that the Germans were more industrious whilst they were there more than the French. They believe that the Germans were, we have buildings, like in the town where I grew up in Tico, we have the CDC, we have the central engineering with this, with the machinery and everything that was set up by the Germans. We still have these very solid buildings standing.
Yeah, I could say the same also from the region where I'm coming from, where you still had some building and even bridges. That were built.
Exactly. You have water tank, you have upper costing, all these buildings, although they are small heads, but they are still really very firm and strong. And there is a saying always that, oh, I hope you are going to do it as solid as a German.
Now, let me just jump in and ask you if you can take the reader in the mind and the head of who is doing this poem, because the first question, why did you decide to put it in Pidgin, which you already of course translated, and secondly, what is it really about for someone who reads the poem and does not really understand?
Actually, reading this poem again in 2021 is something that has kept me thinking. And I start to realize why people have often referred to Snare as a prophetic novel, because the events in Snare are, this book was published in 2013, and there are things in it that did not happen until like 2016, 2017, 2018, or up till date. For instance, talking about the poem, why I wrote the poem, and how significant the poem is.
Yeah.
Actually, let me unravel, what motivated me to write this poem. If you look at this poem, it's not in my nature to analyze my own work, but okay, given my literature background, but let me just try to do a kind of little analysis. I know there are other colleagues who see into it and analyze it more. So it's like the English-speaking parents crying out because a lot of English-speaking Cameroonians have left the country to the West. And so it's like they're crying out that instead of them to stay behind and see how they can build this part of the country together with them and make things to be better, they have left and they feel abandoned and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we start to look at why all this came about. It still boils down to the whole issue of colonialism and the fact that why are they crying? Because they are being marginalized.
Okay.
Yeah, by the majority. There's a problem of minority.
Okay.
So I don't know if I should talk about the whole poem about my neck become broke.
For example,
and why it's written in pidgin English. It's like I would say the poem is kind of activism against the colonial mentality. During colonial times, the people were told they shouldn't speak their languages in schools. When the Germans were there, they should speak only the German language. When the English and French were there, they had to speak only. So their languages, were restricted only to their homes and things like that.
Yeah.
And even at school, what Pamela says before she writes that poem, I remember she says she was told by her teacher not to speak pidgin English, to speak only English because that's the language of Jesus. There's this misconception that Jesus is, from Europe or from the USA and not from Israel or some country which is not even Europe or the USA. And to think that the teacher said she should speak good English like Jesus. Jesus spoke Aramaic, not English. So it's like Pamela trying to realize herself and starts to yearn to go back home. She wants to go back home. She wants to go back to her roots. She wants to speak pidgin English. She wants to speak her dialect. She wants to do all those things that colonialism and all those restrictions that she had been put. But she's breaking barriers. She's breaking everything. That's why the poem comes very strongly in the end to show that she has, given the disillusionment, she has seen the reality of the situation here, and her wish is to go back home.
Okay, now I see the poem really a bit differently. The first time I read it, with my little pidgin English knowledge, I did not quite get it. And after Laura read it once, it was a bit better. I think I'm going back, I'll read it again.
Yeah.
And I would also recommend people to buy the book and really go because it's really deep.
My neck become broke. When I saw this George Floyd incident came up strongly with the police officer putting his knee on Floyd's neck.
Yeah.
It's like the burden, the black man's burden. It's the same cry that the Anglophone Cameroonians back home, the mothers, the parents, are crying from the weight of colonialism, the weight of racism, the weight of marginalization, the weight of discrimination. All those exclusionist tendencies are what, really weighs on the neck of the people of African descent, sub-Saharan Africa.
So we are a bit out of time. So I would like to ask a last question before we go into the break. And this question, you've touched it already quite a bit, but taking our situation back in Cameroon, here are one Francophone and one Anglophone sitting and talking to each other. So what is your perspective? What are your hopes of how we could get this situation solved? Because as I can see it now, family are just losing their beloved ones and members, which have been concerned also by. And to me, I don't know. I cannot really say sincerely if there's hope that it's going to be ended soon. So what is it you think? How is it going to, and what can we do to bring it to an end?
when you talk about bringing it to an end, what do you actually mean by bringing it to an end? Because to the best of my knowledge, I mean, the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon is dwindling to an end. I know there are still skirmishes of things happening here and there, in the sense that people are being kidnapped here and there, and there's atrocities still being committed by unknown people. We don't know again if it's the secessionist group, the Amazonian group, doing this, or it's just, I mean, vandals who have risen up from the society. But I think things have really improved a lot from what used to be the case. Because personally, in 2018, I actually traveled through the Bafut airport deliberately, even though I was warned not to go there because this area was like militarized, as I was told. But I said, no, I want to see things for myself. I saw the bikes that were burnt. I saw all the atrocities from both camps, or all the things that they were doing. So I think those things they are coming slowly to an end, but there is still much to be done, because what has been done so far, there was a national dialogue in 2019, which personally I was a part of it, and we tried to suggest some solutions. We tried to table some ideas, which was a summary of what we got, the opinions of the people in the diaspora. So when we discussed them in this conference in Yaoundé, and came up with some solutions which need to be implemented. Personally, I actually suggested that the whole idea of decentralization is something that should not just be on paper, it should really be effected. But I mean, things are slow, I would say. So it's a process which has been acknowledged, but I mean, it goes with the same procedure how things are done in Africa, in Cameroon as well, and things. There was also the issue of the special status that was adopted for the English-speaking part of Cameroon. So far, I know that this month the head of state signed a decree where he appointed two counselators. That's two persons to whom people could report issues of discrimination. If you are a citizen and you feel that you are being marginalized, you are being discriminated, there is the possibility, there is an office where you can go there and actually report this. And if you feel that your right and your freedom are being infringed upon by any government or administrative official, they have appointed offices where you can actually go there now and actually report these cases to. And I hope that more and more of such things will come up. And I want to us, like the youth, they should take it as a challenge to even come up with non-governmental organizations that are there to support the ideas that work for the society, for the community, for the people, that has nothing maybe personally to do with the government. They should take it as a challenge to be more responsible, to do things, not caring if the government wants to do it or not, because there are things, even as I've observed, even in Germany, which the government doesn't do it, the non-governmental organizations, civil society that takes up this role. So I encourage more and more youths to delve into non-profit or non-political issues and come up with initiatives. And the government should also be ready to provide incentives, something to encourage these people to be able to take up challenges.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that gives us really a perspective, because what I was meaning when I asked is that we really get it solved for good, for that we don't even have this situation in the background. So
for that I have an idea. Maybe after the break we'll talk about it.
Talking about the break, exactly. We are going to the break now. And when we come back, we will have some questions from the audience, which I hope that there have been some questions formulated already. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again after the break. So welcome back, and as I asked our support in the background, I've learned that we did not have questions from the audience. That means we are going to round up our talk. And I would like to ask you, is there something particular that you think you would like to address to the people, you would like to tell the youth of Cameroon or Germany? As we are going to the end of our talk.
Actually, with regards to the issue of colonialism, I mean, I'm happy that there is more and more awareness, especially here in Germany, because when I first came to Germany, I noticed that most of my classmates at the university, they knew little or nothing about their colonial past, and I was really surprised because I realized that all along we have been studying European history in Cameroon, studying the Western cultures and things like that. But when I came here, I never heard anything being said about say our culture, the African culture and things like that. The only book I was very familiar with, I think at that time, was Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, which actually gives a very degrading picture of Africa. Meanwhile, I want to believe that when the colonial masters came, there were also positive things that they saw in Africa. There were good things, there were nice things that they saw. I mean, they had a nice time, they had a good time. I mean, what about those things?
Yeah.
So I was strongly advised that, I mean, their young ones should learn more and more about this part of their history to actually know, I mean, the colonial exploits, I mean, the invasions, everything that they do. I mean, this is the only way by which they can have a better way forward. And even the youth of Cameroon should also enable, I mean, to make an effort to learn about their history, because I realized that during the struggle in the northwest and southwest regions, there are some young people who believed that Cameroon, that's the English-speaking part of Cameroon, had independence when the Germans left.
That means by 1919, around that year, that they were
around 1916.
16, yeah,
when this part was ceded to Britain.
Okay.
This was a British mandate. This was a mandate territory. This was not a nation. It was still under colonialism, under British colonialism. That's actually what I want them to understand. This was not an independent country yet, but they believed that when they divided Cameroon unequally between the English and the French, Cameroon had its independence. Then no, Cameroon was being administered, the English part of Cameroon was being administered from Nigeria, from Lagos, because Britain also had Nigeria as its colony. So for administrative purpose, it was being administered with Nigeria. That is why in 1961, when Britain wanted to give independence to the English-speaking part of Cameroon, they decided to do it through a plebiscite. And there were just two questions that were asked during this plebiscite. Do you want to join the French-speaking part of Cameroon, who already had independence in 1960,
yes,
or do you want to join Nigeria? So there was no third option. So the people wanted a third option where they could be an autonomous,
as an autonomous
nation of their own. There wasn't a third option, even though there were politicians like John Guffoncha who actually fought and struggled to see that a third option was given, but there was not a third option. The only person who even really stood for a third option was P.M. Kale, but his party also was very small and his voice was a small voice. No one could really listen to him. Yeah. So Cameroon, Southern Cameroon had never had independence. Yeah. In 1961, they voted to be in a federal system of government with the French-speaking part of Cameroon, federalism. So that's what I mean. So they should learn the history, they should read the history, and also know where they are coming from and where they are going to. This way, nobody will be able to maybe deceive them. Regarding the issue, I believe that the diaspora, the people living abroad, are the ones who actually instigated or who actually also influenced the crisis that is in the north and southwest region. And I believe that the solution should come with the people in the diaspora, most especially the leaders who are leading these armed young men they should be addressed.
Yeah.
I am not for violence. They should be called in a sitting, in a peaceful way, and I mean, and talk with them and bring them to reason and let them see reason why all this, what is happening, is not necessary.
Okay.
So to say, that's my perspective.
Okay. Thank you very much for this historical background. And thank you also for calling the German and the African or the Cameroonian youth to be more aware of their past history so that they can act upon that and work for a better future for both sides. So I would like to thank you very much for this time that we've had here. It has brought to me, and I hope to many of the audience also, very new perspectives. I would very strongly recommend people to go and read the book. You can order it, you get it quite easily and read it. It's a very interesting book. And I would like to thank the organization Sonnenblumen Community Development Group for having made this event possible in cooperation with Stimmen Afrikas, which have offered us this room to have the talk. So just to close up, I had a note from the organizers who are telling us that for people watching now, we have a safe space for discussion. Please click the link, the Zoom link, so that you can join the chat and discuss on the talk. And so saying, I thank all of the listeners, and I would like to close this interview and this talk of ours.
Okay.